Here we go.
You really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker. What you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way. Close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Quan from the logo.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it! Hits it!
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Man, I'm just about ready to feel sad for Japan. They got off to such a good start. Brazil leveled it, and it was a lot of playing down on the Brazilian offensive end. A turnover, and in the 96th minute, that was basically at the end of extra time right there. Brazil went ahead to 1. Now they're playing nearing the 100th minute, and it looks like that it is all but said and done for Japan right there in the knockout round. The round of 32, Brazil, a 2-1 advantage over Japan. A couple of other games coming up later on. Team USA does not play until Wednesday. Jay DeMeritt, who normally is here on Monday, is going to join us coming up tomorrow. So we'll get his insight on the knockout round with Bosnia and the Americans coming up on Wednesday with Jay. That is going to be coming up on tomorrow's show. Hope everybody out there had a fantastic weekend, because I did as well. I also want to give this reminder, and I don't want this to sound like it's me and you never go outside and you do work or anything like that. Once upon a time, I did. Like a lot of you growing up, worked outside, did construction in the summertime when you're not in college, the other really hot jobs, putting up pay if you grow up where I grew up, down in Greene County. But today and basically the rest of the week, take heed of all the heat-related warnings that you're going to get, and stay as cool and as hydrated as absolutely humanly possible. Please. Because we're getting into some territory that is going to be lengthy. Now, I sit here all day long and talk about, I love the heat. Like, for example, yesterday, we played at Center Grove Central, and it was probably the hottest and the sweatiest, the most humid gym that I've been in forever. I absolutely loved it, but that's playing basketball. That's different. And by the way, I sucked, too. It was awful. I was awful. It's a good thing Caleb and James weren't there. Awful. But I do it. I love it. I love getting loose and all that, but this is dramatically different right here. We'll hopefully keep you updated. We'll have the Fox 59 weather reports throughout the afternoons here, and just making sure that, again, if you're outside, because we have a lot of have-tos in life, and for many, being outside and working is a have-to, cool and hydrated as much as you possibly can. So Brazil moves on to the round of 16 after knocking off Japan. A little bit of excitement right there. I'm trying to check the board right now as they're showing it. And there it is. They'll get the winner of Ivory Coast and Norway, which is coming up tomorrow right there. 2-1 Brazil over Japan. The Fever got back on the winning track on Saturday night versus the LA Sparks without Caitlin Clark. Unfortunately, we are stuck with more stupidity in terms of the Fever and the WNBA and Caitlin Clark. And this is not on the WNBA part. This is on those that talk about it. And honestly, those that I would expect to be much smarter. And I understand that you get those that aren't bright, or you get those that are doing it for a reason. And I like to allude to those folks as they are grifters. They are verbal grifters for you. They don't really care what's going on. They just kind of want to jump in and get your response and your reaction. Good or bad, it doesn't matter to them. But we'll get to those stories coming up a little bit later on as well. I saw the news regarding Micah Potter. It's kind of interesting. Micah Potter is a guy that you think may have, in the short term, a bit of a future with the Pacers. Some latest on him and trying to maneuver, if you're the Pacers, to make yourself as flexible as humanly possible in terms of this offseason. And let's face it, there is just not a great deal of flexibility right there. There just, simply put, is not. But they are trying to create as much as possible. And we'll see where they end up going in that capacity. You see a lot of guys that are becoming available. Yeah, the latest again regarding the Pacers, they exercised the team option on Micah Potter, who had moments. I don't know if it's truly meaningful basketball. I like him a great deal. It'd have been nice if he'd have joined the show a couple of different times and maybe you could have got to know him a little bit more. But I digress. I like him a great deal. But what I mean in these terms, I don't know if he would be a solid fit for a team that is expected to be elite level. That makes sense to you. Like last year, I don't know how much I learned last year. The only thing I learned about last year is not ever wanting to have to go through last year ever again. And that the year prior was much better. And hopefully the year after is much, much better. Last year taught me how much I miss Tyrese Halliburton, how much I miss his influence. His influence was still there as he was around the team in rehab, but his on-the-floor influence. Now, the one thing that I thought that he showed and has shown that combines with what I believe him to be as a leader, and really the main reason as to why I believe in this team, when a lot of you think I'm absolutely crazy. I don't care. It's not the first time somebody thinks I'm crazy for something I've said, but it is coming from the heart, and it is the truth. However, so much of my belief in Halliburton is his leadership. And I think he is just as good a leader off in being out there, whether he's holding his basketball camp this weekend or being at the WNBA games and being a supporter of the Fever, going to the Colts games and being a supporter. I like that a great deal. He is interwoven. He is ingrained into this area, and that's one thing that always stood the athletes around here alone. You can be high level, but then when you also are on and off the floor high level, which involves a great deal of leadership, and that's exactly what he has to me. The consummate leader, not just a professional in front of the camera, but a professional absolutely everywhere. And that's the greatest of signs right there. And it's always forgotten in NBA terms. Like, for example, we're going into this offseason, and Kawhi Leonard says, hey, the only team that I'm going to allow to extend me would be Toronto. Of course, it's that team that you went like half-ass of a season, won a title, by the way, too, and you spent half-ass of a season there, and you bailed to go back to where you're from in Southern California, and now reportedly you want to go back. Between that and the consistent injuries, man, that wouldn't be for me. That would not be for me. But what you see is his level and what he's hit in the past. Like I saw a report, well, Toronto would be the only team out there that would be able to take both Kawhi Leonard and John Morant on. Why in the world, if you feel that you have a chance and you're growing and you want to be elite, would you want to add John Morant to the equation? Why would you want to do that? That's not leadership. They have shown Kawhi Leonard's not a leader. He's just really quiet. And the one thing you can count on is him missing a ton-ass of games. Years ago, probably so, but not this year. But they always get mentioned. These guys always get mentioned at a higher level. And I know because they won 19 games and it's out of sight, out of mind. I get to where the Pacers are right now, and you've got a lot of non-believers. Hey, listen, I deal with a lot of non-believers in this season here. A lot of them. Say, hey, you're crazy for believing that. This team may be good, but not good enough. You know what? I want to know what you think, but that doesn't mean I believe in what you think. I believe in what I think, and certainly I believe in what I have seen. I mean, they weren't forced into going this path in their belief with this core. This was their choice. Their belief in putting together this core and knowing what they have led to this. It's not like, well, we don't have. I'll give you a great example. Like the Colts are in a situation where, well, now you kind of have to live with this. Yeah, if things were different, if they didn't make that trade for Sauce Gardner during the trade deadline last fall, they may be, and everything fell apart, they may be in a different dynamic altogether. If they would have had ownership of a first rounder, but let's face it, they were forced into going again down that path. And you can honestly say, not because you would fully agree with it or believe in it, but because what's your other alternative? Yeah, your options are not robust. The Pacers, on the other hand, they chose this path. They believe in this path. And I do as well. And doubling back to my thoughts on these other stars, and especially two in which I just mentioned that are also out of sight, out of mind, just for not the same reason. They're out of sight, out of mind because nobody's really had any mention for Leonard. There's nothing of consequence. And, when he's out there, he's not out there very long. And, Morant's just a pain in the ass, basically, in Memphis. Look what they thought once upon a time compared to what they think right now. But still, they're always brought up before Tyrese Halliburton because the belief is their talent level in the NBA, individually speaking, is much higher than his. And what is often forgotten about is the leadership quality, as I bring up all the time. It's so forgotten in team sports. We get all wound up and wrapped up with this individual talent and what we see. But what you also should be looking at is really simple. How do teams play? Are you making the rest of your team better? That's where Tyrese Halliburton, to me, stands out. Among the peers, and again, often not mentioned, the star of stars in the NBA. Not all the time do you hear his name, but it should be. And it should matter when you make teammates better. And it's not something you have to look for, have to search for analytically like a big dork. It's something that just slaps you right in the face like us dummies out there can see it easily. Like it's even something, oh, wow. Like an oh, wow for me, and I'm dumb as hell. I get it. But it's not something you have to research. It's not something you have to look up. You don't have to do analytics to it. You don't have to do math. That's all really good for those of us out there that don't have the smarts real good. That's what makes Halliburton different. And until further notice from me, will always make him different. Now, I mentioned this, the Pacers exercising the team option and the contract of center Micah Potter and send a qualifying offer to two-way contract wing. That's Jalen Sloss, and that had to happen before they start free agency. Those decisions, according to Tony East, for the Pacers, two decisions they had to make before free agency begins coming up tomorrow. Potter and Slauson will both be in the mix for Indiana during the offseason as they finalize their roster for the 2026-27 campaigns. Mostly contractual reasons, according to Tony, for Potter and his agreement, non-guaranteed. So even after picking up the option, the Pacers could choose to waive him at any time before the season and avoid a salary cap hit. Now the Pacers have more flexibility with their efficient big man in the offseason, and we'll see where they go. And I want to double back to what I was talking about, not really knowing what you're getting. Like people say, so what did you gather? What did you get? What kind of intel did you have after last season? I mean, I didn't have very much, other than I couldn't wait till it got over, until it ended, till it was complete, and we get on board for next year. I don't know how much I learned, for example, about Jarris Walker. People ask that all the time. What did you learn about these guys that were playing, the backup roles, the not-so-major roles that were thrust into more minutes, more opportunities? Micah Potter was one of those guys that they brought in. Listen, were there times when he looked good? Absolutely. Do I think automatically he's going to fit into the mold for a team that you expect a great deal out of like this one? That remains to be seen. But do I believe in the leader to help make guys like that better? A guy like McConnell out there with the second unit making guys like that better? I do have a belief in that. Anyway, we shall see. That is the latest of news for the Pacers throughout the afternoon. I mentioned the Fever a little bit earlier. They got back on the winning track. They have a long time off. They don't play again until Sunday on the road in Vegas. That is on the 5th of July. And that is 4 consecutive, which also includes a visit. That is on a Thursday, the 9th in Phoenix. And, of course, the whole Phoenix saga started out all this massive debate. What's funny about the debate, and I bring this up often too, is something I mentioned to Jake a little bit earlier in our crossover brought to you by Love Heating and Air is and I know he does too, I try to keep this in terms of actualities, what happens in basketball, opinions of what happens in sports, and never resort to the least common denominator, and that is verbally grifting you guys. You know what? There's not a lot going on, so let me come in here and see if I can stir the pot up and get people's reaction. I'll be honest with you. I don't know how much outside of this market I would even be talking about this. But I do know the major reason in this market and why others are talking about this is because of Caitlin Clark. There is nothing easier in the world. I was on with Tony Katz this morning. He was asking my opinion on all that has gone down in now almost the past week. And, I simply put, if you would deal with that deliberate elbow back on Monday, maybe the pattern changes. However, I think we're down this path far enough now to know that this pattern is not going to change. I don't have trust in this WNBA leadership to really go the right direction, to have a change, to do things right. It seems like around every corner there is some new twist, and so much of this is brought on to themselves. But make no mistake about it, the reason why anybody is doing this is because of Caitlin Clark. And then you all of a sudden hear all these wild-ass theories, and these are from those that don't have a similar investment. I'm talking to you guys. You guys actually spend money to go to these games. Nobody outside this market would care a moment, outside of Caitlin Clark fans themselves, but would care a moment about this without the controversy or without stirring up the controversy, without creating that. Now, help me out. Landon is in for James today. Emmanuel Acho, is that his name?
Yes.
What does he do? Get a little background on Emmanuel Acho.
I believe
he is a talking head somewhere, right?
He's on a podcast called Speakeasy, and I believe that has something to do with the Prize Picks.
What I'm going to do here is I'm playing sound and quoting a podcast. So when I walk out of here later on tonight, if somebody wants to kick the crap out of me, I deserve this. So I'm quoting, and then I am mentioning, and I am playing the sound from a podcast of Emmanuel Acho, right? I'm getting that.
Yep, that's correct.
And this is exactly what I'm talking about. There's no truth. There's no care. There's nothing other than what I called verbal grifting. This is what he had to say.
to be cognizant of how she talks to her in public because it's going to look like there's an issue. Unless we can take off our gloves for Caitlin Clark and stop trying to act like she's a messiah, the WNBA could and would be better off without Caitlin Clark, at least without this version of everybody coddling and caressing and catering to Caitlin Clark.
The world would be better off without dumbass stuff like that. We all would. Because what this does, it muddies the water for all of us that try to tell you on a daily basis around here, again, where you are monetarily invested. When your disposable income around here is invested into this product. And it clearly is. Try to keep it out of the weeds and ridiculousness and the level of stupidity that was. I got news for you. The poster doesn't matter. It does to everybody else because this fire was started long ago by those that don't have the best interest of any of this. They just have their own best interest in your reaction and your response, or me, my nubbnuttedness, playing this thing back on this show today when I should have just ignored the hell out of it. Alas, it made a point of what I've been trying to tell you now for months regarding this. This around here with us, these are the lone opinions that matter with you and mine. It is the absolute Wild West of dumbassery everywhere else. Just like that. Hey, nothing against Asia Wilson. Asia Wilson is a good player, but it was her and like two other WNBA stars, 2 years ago, did some kind of car commercial. And hell, I went for like 3 months and had no idea who they were. Had none. Zero. There is a difference. The WNBA would not be better off without Caitlin Clark. The WNBA would be better off if the WNBA had better folks running the WNBA, had more savvy, more intelligent folks running the WNBA. They'd be better off if the officiating were better. Maybe that's something, even before all this started, you should recognize into, by the way, right now, yeah, this is not great. I've never sat here and said there have to be Caitlin Clark rule. Just go out there and play basketball. But deliberate elbows, I don't care if it makes contact or not. Non-basketball related bull crap has to be whistled. It has to be dealt with. That's easy. The NBA figured this out, for goodness sake. How come, in this case, you can't figure it out if they're WNBA? And again, all this does is create even more of the stuff as I just played. And my bad on playing it. I hated I felt the need to do it. But it so backed up my point, especially that of the past month or so. But this goes all the way back. This is not the first time we've dealt with this. But those just like that are verbal grifters. They're verbal grifters of your time. Makes zero sense. Nobody knew 5 things about that league. And believe me, I'd love for everybody to dial down the tone and for it to be about basketball, because when we're around basketball here, to me, this team is not nearly as good as it should be. And as I talked about last week, there have to be adjustments made on this personnel. You tell me that this is going to get any better, I'm not going to hold my breath on that. Anybody else? Probably not. But it has to be better. It has to be better. And just like what I just did, you can't put yourself in situations where you end up glorifying or legitimizing stupidity like that. That has nothing to do with a lot of the reasons why you're interested in this. Now, granted, I know that a lot of you are fanboy-esque of Caitlin Clark. But I do admire the fact that around here, there is a common theme and a common goal is to simply put, have a better basketball team. The rest of the world, not so much. All right, enough of that stupidity. 239-1070 is that number. Text line is wide open as well, 317-239-1070. We got Fox 59 with a weather update ready. Not right yet, Landon. Just hold the phone 1 second, too. Landon today is in for James. How many more days do you have with us? You were here on Friday. How many more?
Tomorrow's last day for now.
Tomorrow is the last day. It is incredibly hot outside right now. We have heat-related warnings basically through the remainder of the week. So... again, if you're out and about, I know it's easy for me to say because I'm sitting in here in my tank top like a big douche in the AC, but I do want to remind you as somebody that's been out in this before, I did weed eat a little bit earlier. I did some weed eating for about an hour and a half. Got that done. And it was hot and humid. Now, I dig hot and humid. But working in it, having to live in it like that's a little bit different. Just... be careful out there, seriously. With the heat, stay hydrated, stay as cool as possible, and we shall keep you updated. John Nolan, who is the voice of the Fever, is going to have a little bit of time off. He's going to join us coming up at the bottom of the hour. The Charlie Hughes, that took place in Carmel over the weekend, too. Kyle Neddenreip of the Star is going to join us. Some of the high school play that he witnessed, and especially out of those that are just now getting introduced to the high school game. Some very young players that are etching out positions going through high school and then further with the way that they played at the Charlie Hughes. Kyle Neddenreip's going to join us coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. And Stephen Holder's going to be here of ESPN coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Behringer's Tavern, we're on South Meridian. That is coming up on Thursday. Originally set for Friday. Now it is on Thursday. We want to make sure that we vault you into this Independence Day 250 weekend and celebration as fantastically as possible. And we do that with my friend Rob and you and Behringer's on South Meridian. That is coming up on Thursday. 317-239-1070. That is the text line. You can phone in as well. We appreciate you hanging out today on a smoking hot Monday. Let's get you updated right now. Fox 59 weather-wise. Here you go.
The Ride with JMV.
It's called Sex Panther by Odeon. It's illegal in 9 countries.
It's quite pungent. It stings the nostrils.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome back. Busy Monday for you. 317-239-1070 is the text line at JMV 1070 social media platform X. Multifaceted are the positions in which you can join the show as Rex Hampton chooses to do today. JMV, I saw you on Fox 59 last night. It looked like you were 12 deep and had been in the sun all day at the JMV estate. There is something to be said about accuracy and portrayal on TV last night. I think I kept it together, though. Anybody else watch? I did not. I think I kept it together. I had been in the sun all day. Just like coming up on Friday and then next Sunday. I get the JMV takeover this Saturday night for the 4th of July and 250. Other than that, Paradise Day Watson. Oh, by the way, too, I don't know if anybody out there needs any meat. Me and Jeff Watson are making a run to the Odin Locker early Friday morning. So I have given the owner, Andrew Schwarzentruber, the heads up that we will be coming there, and we're going to be ready to put a significant dent in the marinated turkey selection that they have. And if you guys have never had the marinated turkey from the Odin Locker, Odin, Indiana, Davies County, you have no idea what you're missing. I have never met anybody in my life that has had a bite of that and hasn't fallen in love immediately. Seriously. Immediately. I'm going to put this in lead singer 1986 musical term. It's like the Susanna Hoffs of the Bengals of the meat world. You just immediately fall from the time you get the side eye on Walk Like an Egyptian, you fall right in love. Really, you walk up to the counter and you look through the glass. It looks like a big thing full of guts. It looks like a bunch of guts. And you go, hey, what is that? You grill that. Yet another thing to thank me later about. But we're making a run on Friday morning if anybody's interested. Brazil 2-1 over Japan a little bit earlier. We are waiting on Germany and Paraguay. Coming up here next, that is the knockout stage, the round of 32. Bosnia-Herzegovina is going to be the counter for Team USA coming up on Wednesday. And Jay DeMerit, the former U.S. men's national team participant in 2010 in the World Cup, is going to join us on tomorrow's show at 4 o'clock. But that was a Rex Hampton, by the way, that was well done by you. That's incredible. And hopefully my insight was as good as that insight you just delivered. That's well done because, yeah, I had a day yesterday. I did. On the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, he's the voice of the Indiana Fever, and he's going to be twiddling his thumbs for like the next week or so, almost a week or so now, right? Until Sunday. What are you going to do with yourself, John Nolan? What's going to be happening?
Week off without a game. So, yeah, I'm thinking about going to make a meat run with you now.
Would you like to make a meat run? Have I sold you on the marinated turkey with that?
I think I'm in, yeah.
Telling you, man. And it's not even bad for you either. That's the other thing, too. High protein, not bad for you.
I'm these days, I'm trusting you for dietary advice. So I'm locked in.
Join me, pal. You got to join me. But other than a meat run to Odin on Friday morning, what else is going to be a part of your existence until you hop a flight and head out for a 4-game Western road swing beginning next Sunday?
Well, of course, we got Fever Weekly coming up here on these airwaves at 6:30 on Wednesday night. So that'll be a highlight of the week fever-wise. The team had off yesterday following Saturday night's game and today, but they're back to practice over these next few days, and then we'll actually be traveling out to Vegas on Friday. We'll spend the 4th of July in Vegas on Saturday, and then the game at Vegas on Sunday the 5th.
I'm just looking at our picture right now. We're just a couple of bros right here rocking rocking.
I'll pull back the curtain. I saw you going Suns out, guns out, and I was like, I'm gonna get my Tamika Catchings throwback jersey on.
Oh my! I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't know which one's Andrew Ridgely in this whole Wham recreation we're rocking right here. Am I Ridgely or am I George Michael here? Because we just look like we look like a couple of douches in these tank tops right here. I can't lie.
Hey, McAfee can't be the only one.
Oh, man. Hey, is there anything that you gather from that win? I mean, one, they just needed a win. But anything you gather from that win on Saturday night versus LA?
Yes, and for anyone who was busy with the JMV takeover on Saturday night and not dialed into the game, hosting the LA Sparks, who are without Kelsey Plum, who's right up there with Caitlin in terms of being one of the top guards in the league as a scorer and as a facilitator. They were also without Cameron Brink, who's billed to be a star center for them. Unfortunately, she's dealt with a ton of injuries over the first few years of her career, so she was out with an ankle injury. So to be clear, Fever missing Caitlin, Sparks missing definitely their top player, and then one of their other, their top interior defensive player, if nothing else. So it was a game where even without Caitlin, the Fever needed to win. I think positive takeaways, one is that they not only did win, but it was arguably their best all-around performance of the season, or most dominant performance. They led by more than 30 points, were able to really cruise it in the second half. But yeah, other things that you can take away from it that are going to be important for the long run when you have everyone healthy is that Ty Harris, who had, it was a nice story coming into this season with a homecoming for her after growing up in Fishers and hooping in high school at Heritage Christian. She was injured almost all of last year while playing for the Dallas Wings. So it was a tough return to the court for her early on this year. And, shooters, can go through streaks where sometimes you're hot and sometimes you're in a slump. She had recently been in a slump, but she got the keys to start on Saturday with Caitlin out, Coach White and the staff counting on her experience rather than thrusting the rookie Raven Johnson into that spot. And Ty did a great job just running the team first and foremost, but then also is really encouraging to see her have her best offensive game of the season, see the ball go through the net, including from the outside. So I think that's obviously just going to get her confidence up. And you need, against top teams in the league, you're going to need everybody to chip in their role. Ultimately, she's not going to be the starting point guard. She's going to be a role player coming off the bench, but you're going to need everyone to contribute. And so you got something like that. You got Monique Billings, who's been a starting forward for this team as one of their big free agent additions. And Monique would acknowledge it's been inconsistent from her so far this year, but shoot, she set a franchise record for plus minus in a game. She was plus 38 when she was in the game the other night. So that's now been a handful of games for her here of late in which the arrow is trending up. So just a few examples there of things that definitely were still important to take away from a blowout victory.
That is John Nolan, the voice of the Fever, not again until on the road in Vegas next Sunday at 7 o'clock. Fever 11-8 on the season. John is on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So I know that you said they didn't practice today. They won't practice tomorrow, but last check.
They will actually practice tomorrow.
They will practice tomorrow, so we'll find out a little bit more about the situation with Caitlin Clark. I guess what I'm asking you is kind of look into the future a little bit. What would be your expectation? Because it did seem like decision-making wise, setting her out for that game on Saturday and giving her all this time to rest up for 4 important games out west. You could do that and still get a win. That was nice. At least that portion of it set up nicely for them. So what do you feel is going to be the latest regarding the Fever guard tomorrow?
Yeah, so to be clear, I think you kind of have the proper inference right there. I don't have insider information to share here right now, but if you are going by what Coach White had said over the weekend, it did seem to be fairly strategic in terms of, first off, just making sure that Caitlin's 100% and not trying to play through injury because, she did that last year and then it wound up being a situation where she was out for the majority of the season. But yeah, when you just look at it strategically, rested and not playing on Saturday, now you go a full week without a game. And so, cross your fingers that she can be 100% basically, or as close to as anyone would be 100% in the middle of a season now next Sunday when they play at Las Vegas, who is, again, one of the top teams in the league. And it's an interesting road trip. They're starting on Sunday at Las Vegas. Then they'll have a couple of days off. Next Wednesday, they'll play at LA for the final time this year. And then the next night, they'll play at Phoenix. So it is kind of puzzling how you go a full week without a game, and then you wind up with a back-to-back on the road, different cities next week. And then the road trip will wrap up returning to Las Vegas. So, just in terms of the challenge that Vegas presents being as good as they are, the emotions, I guess we'll say, with the Phoenix game, and then, LA at home, they're not going to want to get swept in the season series. So it is a tough trip. And right now at this point, since the Fever have let some get away from them that they would have liked to have had, trying to climb their way back up in the standings.
All right, is John Nolan, who is the voice of the Fever, has got a little bit of time off. All right, so what else you doing? Poolside, hanging out? What are we doing before you hop that flight?
Yeah, well, after I throw the jersey on here, realizing that I'm not really filling out the sleeves, probably got to have some gym time here this week. Probably some time out at the pool too.
Yeah.
And yeah, getting life in order as I look around my my place that's in disorder right now. So gotta get the life together.
Gotcha. Well, do that. You get some life together right here. Get you a little bit of a breather of sorts, and we'll talk again as we get closer to it. But John, I appreciate you more than you know. Have a fantastic 4th of July on the inbound, and we'll do it again soon. Thank you, John.
All right. Hope to catch you on Wednesday before Fever Weekly, and then when we make the run for that smoked turkey on Friday.
That is well done, pal. I appreciate you. Thank you, John.
All right. See you guys.
John Nolan's right there on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Yeah, it's funny. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. This is kind of a tease. I mentioned a little bit earlier, Toronto and, Kawhi Leonard and, John Morant and this interest. Or Golden State and LeBron and Anthony Davis in that interest. Is that to you guys more exciting? And it all more potentially in winning than what they're rebooting here? Than what they're doing with this core group after a 19-win season here? Is that more exciting? Would it be more exciting if you didn't have a couple of members of this core group and they were out there searching for something else? I'm just curious. I have zero idea at this point why anybody would be sold, and I do know the history, but sold on Kawhi Leonard or sold on John Morant or sold on Anthony Davis. Who would be trying to buy what they're selling here? Does that make sense? I would go with the Pacers reboot. I would go with whatever the Celtics end up doing, I'm assuming without Jaylen Brown. I'm a minor at best believer in Giannis in Miami. I would go with the upstart Hawks. I would go with the Pistons, even though I'm not the biggest of fans there. I certainly would go with the Knicks back-to-back before I would go with any of this other foolishness that I just can't comprehend. Why? I know you're looking for name recognition, but why? Why would that inspire anybody in terms of elite-level winning? Get back to that coming up on the other side. Kyle Neddenreip at the Charlie Hughes over the weekend. Kyle's got some information for us regarding some new players that really did show out over the weekend, too. Kyle's at the top of the hour. Stephen Holder of ESPN After 5, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan. John, for the District Tap, I got a couple of locations for you. It was great to have you all down with me, by the way, last Wednesday with me and Michael down at the District Tap. It's a block away from the field house, right there off of Georgia. It was a tremendous time. The damn good food, the happy hour specials, all of that. As you're celebrating, just kind of going out and hanging out, the downtown location or the Clearwater Crossing location on the north side, that is good to suit exactly what you're looking for, too. Having everything that you need to be the inspiration of a fantastic afternoon or evening out. With damn good food, those happy hour specials, which are unmatched. Then on the weekends, you're going to get some live music, the entertainment with TVs everywhere. So if you're a World Cup fan, you got it. If you're a baseball fan, your favorite team, you got it. You're going to get the coverage that you need at the District Tap. The 2 locations and more. Hey, ask about their catering, especially for a big weekend like this or later on this summer. Check it out online right now, thedistricttap.com.
The Ride with JMV.
Hey, you gonna stare all day or you gonna buy something?
I'm gonna stare all day.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Landon's over there. My name is John. Thank you all for joining us. A red-hot, smoking Monday afternoon, which is going to be more of the same later on this week. Thank you for joining us. Fresh off playing last Tuesday night with us in pickup basketball, Trace Jackson Davis, team option picked up by the Raptors for 26 and 27, and it looks like that he may end up being offered up in some deals. When I referenced Kawhi Leonard and that possibility a little bit earlier, some of the rumors floating around is that a deal could be done with Trace as a part of it, but we shall see. Bradley Beal, you guys remember Bradley Beal? Was pretty good for a while, for a moment, and then got paid handsomely and disappeared off the face of the earth and was pretty much commonly injured. He has declined his player option with the Clippers, and a lot of you are going, wait a minute, the Clippers? True. This is according to Shams. Evidently, he has a bit of inspiration in playing in Miami. But would Miami have any inspiration in having him as a part of their group and their personnel in Miami? Often injured. Yeah, I saw this too. It's like all these deals with the Raptors. Is Brandon Ingram going to be a dude that scores over 20? He is a higher volume scorer. But anytime he lands with a team, it takes about a year for them to figure out that he is going to be a major component in a trade. I do dig this time of year. But Beal, Anthony Davis, Ja Morant. You know, a lot of people around here always kind of felt interested in Norman Powell. Saw where Wiggins is going back with a new deal down in Miami. We'll see where Norman Powell ends up. Always a high volume, kind of a streak shooter, if you will, a streaky scorer, a streaky shooter. Now, that is the news over the course of the afternoon. I'm not tried these shoes. I do play hoop with guys that wear it. Anybody out there, have you guys tried the Halliburton Pumas? Anybody? I saw where Kelsey Mitchell joined Tyrese Halliburton as a Puma athlete. I think James Boyd has a pair of the Pumas. But I have to go. I've got to go with the high tops. Does that make me old school? High tops. I've got to have some high tops. The low tops, I can't do it. Well, I can do it, but I would rather not do it. I think the Pumas are kind of mid, and not mid for just being kind of, what's that term now uses, like half-ass, like mid, Like when they say, hey, JMV mid. Is mid, that is not what I'm looking for. It means I'm half-assed. Mid. But mid as far as his, like higher than this, if you guys can see. Man, look at that right there. Landon, are you jealous of that leg? Are you jealous of that right leg?
I'm more jealous of your left leg than your right leg.
That's probably about as far as we should go with this dialogue right here, to be completely honest with you. But as far as it should be going. Stephen Holder's going to join us coming up at the 5 o'clock hour. As I mentioned, Kyle Neddenreip on the other side as well. So 250 for America coming up this weekend. And I was privy. I was 6 years old, and I remember, like, the nation's 200th birthday. It was, like, celebrated for months. There were signs everywhere. What's Dazed and Confused, which took place in the summertime of 76, you know, right before July the 4th, and they have a sign when Mitch Kramer is pitching, and he couldn't throw the ball, by the way. Somebody else had to stand in. But on the fence of the baseball diamond, it said, Happy Birthday, America. It's weird. Like, you don't hear it as much unless somebody is saying, well, they're going to throw a party, but nobody's going to show up. Like, the 250 is massively different than the 200. 250 is amazing. But 200 when I was 6, it just seemed like it was a daily, a weekly, a monthly party leading up to the 4th. Quick one. We'll come back with you on the other side. I mentioned Kyle Neddenreip at the Charlie Hughes over the weekend. Some players that are now entering high school or maybe weren't talked about too much a year ago that made some statements on their collective teams over the weekend high school-wise. Kyle Neddenreip's going to join us. That's on the other side. This is 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this. And totally redeem yourself.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome back. Hour number 2 at 239-1070, 317-239-1070. Text line. Somebody asked me regarding IU football, and I will tell you this. I know that other shows reach out to, and I've had Signetti on before. Last year, who did I have on last year? I think did I have on Omar Cooper came on the show last year. Maybe not once, but maybe twice. But I will tell you this, and a lot of this has to do with they don't have to do the promotion that they once did right now. They're at the top of the level. The other part of it is most of these guys will rarely do anything unless it's monetarily driven. Remember I told you the story about Tyreek Tucker going back to March when he was with me at Hinkle for that 3-point shootout competition. And it wasn't him, but he had the little pipsqueak rep come out and say, hey, how much are you guys going to pay? And I guess, well, I'm not paying jack squat, pal. So let me just answer this. I know that everybody commonly reaches out. Rarely do we get a response. And that's not just with the football program. The basketball program is basically the same way. I think I had on Tucker DeVries last year. Otherwise, I basically have to know him to get him to call in. Now, that's all right. That's just the way that it is. But, hell, that's the way that it is with a Fever. I can't tell you the last time I had a Fever player on here. Actually, I can. I think it was Lexi Hall who was in the training room, and one of the trainers listened to the show and handed her the phone. And I swear to you, this was before all the Caitlin Clark stuff. Now, one of these days, this will probably bite them in the ass, but that's not now. Not now. So hopefully I answered your question adequately enough and nicely enough. But it's not like people around here are just like blindly going about their day trying to reach somebody else. And I know that they struggle with Purdue guys. I don't struggle with Purdue because I can text Matt Painter. Otherwise, it can be difficult. So it's the way that it is. It is the way that it is until things like that change. And sometimes they do. Other times they don't. So consider yourself updated. I'm going to tell you the best at putting guys on, no matter what you say, no matter the critique, no matter the dialogue, and especially as long as you're fair and you yourself, you're just not some glorified jackass yapping, that would be the Colts. This is true. I've been doing this for 22 years, so I have a pretty good feel for it, and they're the absolute best. Because, hell, all I ever do is rip them, and then they say, hey, by the way, can you host our pregame show? They're different. Others don't handle criticism that well. And right now, it's blowing sunshine up everybody's rear. For the most part. On the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, we don't have to do that. We just have to make sure he is out of a meeting, as he is right now. From the Star, had a busy weekend this past weekend, but it looked fun. It really did, watching a lot of high school basketball at the Charlie Hughes. It's Kyle Neddenreip with us. Hello, Kyle. How are you?
Hello, John. How are you doing today?
Great. That looked like a lot of fun that you were having up there.
It's one of my favorite events every year. And, and it used to be, Charlie used to run the event, and I'd go and have lunch with him or coffee with him, and we'd go over all the teams he had coming in. And, he was always so excited about, finding out who would be part of it. And then, it used to be a bracket where you'd find out at the end of Sunday who the champion was. Now it's a little different where you just get four guaranteed games, but still, still awesome environment and kind of like a reunion catching up with so many people over the weekend.
How many new faces, meaning from the 8th grade season now and getting their first taste at the high school level as a freshman, did you see that maybe gave you a bit of a basketball eye-opener?
There was a few. There's a young man from Lawrence North, and he's going to be a good one. Robinson. He's about 6'6". Definitely has the ability. I saw him at the Tuesday Night League a couple weeks ago, and he's going to be a really good player. Christmas Addicts has a young man too, Tamari Patterson, who's Bus Patterson, played at Broad Ripple, of course, several years ago. His nephew. He's going to be a really good player. Maryville has a 6'5" freshman point guard who really I got to watch them play one game, and they have another good guard, Charles Hardiman, who's going to be a junior. But that kid's going to make a huge difference for them this year. Levin Robinson is the Lawrence North incoming freshman's name, and he's going to be a really good player, 6'7". But yeah, there was those three. I think kind of stood out to me. I don't, obviously I don't watch. Don't go out of my way to watch middle school games, so I haven't seen these guys play. But just as incoming players, I think can make a splash. Those are definitely three that I saw this weekend that I think will be significant players this year.
Yeah. Kyle Neddenreip of the Stars of the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I'm curious. I've got a friend, Brandon Ray, who is an AAU coach, and his son's a part of this team. There's a kid from Austin, Indiana. That's pretty good too. Get a little background on this kid, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sure. His name's Micah Moeller, and I got a chance to catch up with him, talk to him a little bit this weekend, too. He picked up an IU offer last week, and he's only going to be a sophomore. Had a chance to see Austin play this weekend, and I also, got a chance to see them a little bit towards the end of last year. They made a run in the tournament and made it to the semi-state and had a really good run late in the year with kind of a younger team led by him, but big-time offensive threat. He's about 6'5". Can really score. He got that IU offer, and I think there's a lot of attention on him this weekend, just from a standpoint of, people just hadn't seen him before. So thought he played really well. He had a big game. I know I didn't see this game, but he had a good game against Plainfield, I know, and scored the game-winning basket there. To beat Plainfield, but I saw him against Liberty Christian, kind of a wild game. Liberty Christian ended up winning, but was really impressed with him and really his Austin team. They came back and made that a really close game at the end. Liberty Christian beat him, but he's going to be a really good player. Nice kid to talk to. Think he's got a good head on his shoulders, and like I said, just very advanced offensive game. So I can see why IU's interested in him, and he's very interested in IU too. He grew up as an IU fan down there in southern Indiana. So I think they have a good chance. And it's again, like, he's got 3 years of high school left, so who knows how it all plays out. But I think a lot of interest on his side too in IU.
I'd heard a lot about him. I just had never seen him play, and then I saw a lot of clips on him from this particular event, and it does seem like that he's incredibly talented and has a high ceiling. With that in mind, it seems like he's trying at a young age to catch up with his growth and his body right now a little bit too.
Yeah, and I think that's the nature for, a lot of kids that age who are a little bit taller. And, I think the ones who are, the ones who are really advanced at that age are normally the guards that are smaller, and, kind of the bigger guys have to catch up a little bit with, like you said, kind of growing into their bodies. I think he's going to be one, though, that, once it all comes together for him, I can see why, people are offering him already at this age. I think he's just got some very unique skills for a guy that size that can really knock down shots. And if you watched, I think people will have more attention on Austin this year to watch him during the high school season too, obviously. But man, he'll go get you some buckets and do it against really good competition too. So excited to see for his sake what's next for him, and I think he's got a really bright future ahead of him.
Hey, it's Kyle Neddenreip of the Star. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. How many teams participate in the Charlie Hughes altogether?
There was over 200. I want to say 208, I think, which is I think the most ever I can remember. Now, there was 100, close to 200 before, but I don't remember it going over the 200 mark. So yeah, anyone who's good, I think is going to get in this for the most part, unless there's some other mitigating circumstance. But yeah, it's always a good barometer. I mean, I don't think the games necessarily, make the biggest deal, like if you win or lose, but I think it does for a team like, for example, like New Albany, this weekend. They go 4-0, and I think it really mattered to them. I think coming up here and showing what they can do against good competition. They were the semi-state team last year, and we're playing without Noah Washington, who's probably their best scorer, and still more than held their own against really good competition. So I think for some, Buff Jesuits, another one, they were 4-0. They were 16-0 for the month of June, and bring a lot of talent back. And I think they're going to have a great season. So I think for some teams, it's kind of like let's go prove who we are, use this as a jumping off point, and it's a high school game. It's the same rules as it is during the high school season. 8-minute quarters and 3 refs out there, and so from that standpoint, it's really a cool barometer and event, to kind of see where you're at with everything. But yeah, it does give you an idea of, what teams are looking at, what maybe the deficiencies they have, and kind of gives you an idea of who they are going into the season. So Oak Hill was another one. They were fantastic this weekend, a 2A team that looked like they were in the middle of January the way they played in June.
How did the coaches coach this up in terms of, you want to go out there and win, because when you go out there and play, you always want to win, but also, testing things, seeing how things work, especially when you're utilizing personnel that maybe you haven't before, you're doing for the first time, or you're just kind of testing things. How do coaches coach in that event?
There's different philosophies. I mean, that's a good question, because I know Clint Swan from Crown Point last year. I noticed this, and maybe even before that, but he would kind of sit off in the, they were playing in Carmel's main floor, and he wasn't even sitting with the team. He was sitting off in the bleachers, away from his team. And I went up to him and asked him, like, "Hey, Clint, what's the philosophy here?" And he's like, "I kind of like to see it from a different perspective. I let my assistant, coach the game, make the subs, and then he would obviously talk to the team after the game, between games, and he was still coaching him, obviously, but during the game, he just wanted to see everything from a different angle. And you do see, now that was, maybe to a different degree than other coaches. A lot of coaches will kind of let their assistant, take charge, or give them an opportunity to be a head coach, which I think is a cool thing to do for their assistants. But other coaches, you see, like, I mean, some treat it like it's middle of the March, and I think it's just your philosophy on things and how you want to go about it. But I do think, they're going to try to get guys in the game and see what they can do, maybe, and maybe they wouldn't do that in a game that really matters, but they want to give those kids an opportunity to kind of get in a key situation, or maybe utilize some different plays that you might not even use during the season, or do some things that are just a little bit different. So I think there's some different philosophies on it, but for the most part, everybody's there. Once the game starts, obviously you're wanting to win and compete, and it doesn't honestly look all that much different from an actual high school game.
So, and you get a lot of college coaches up there. I know Matt Painter was up there for a lot of it too, watching the big kid from Pike, and IU's guys were all up there as well. Who else was represented college-wise up at this event?
Yeah, a lot of, you mentioned the in-state guys. Notre Dame was there. I saw Micah Shrewsbury and his assistants, so they were there. Butler was there. Most of the Ball State, I know, was deep for a lot of the guys in our area. So they're trying to get some of the in-state guys. I mean, basically all of the IU Indy was there, definitely. So a lot of Midwest D1 coaches were there. There wasn't maybe the splash of, like, when Braylon Mullins was going into his senior year. It was like, man, it was like an absolute show, and he had all kinds of coaches, Danny Hurley, obviously, but then also, several others who were going after him. So that was big time. And when Flory was coming through, he obviously brought a lot of people through. And, I think if Isaiah Hill hadn't committed, you might have had some of that with him. But, of course, he did commit to Purdue. So you didn't have some of maybe that national buzz that there might have been. But, I say Jason Gardner drew a lot of coaches. Cooper Zachary definitely showed out and drew some coaches. A guy like Mac Welker from Homestead, who he picked up several mid-major offers based on his play this weekend. So he had a lot of coaches there watching him. So, there were definitely some buzz, but maybe not the huge splash that you do see occasionally with, like I said, with Mullins and Flory in recent years that I can remember. And then, there's been some others, but yeah, it was a really good. I mean, there was a good amount of coaches there and a lot of assistants who were there the whole weekend. And then, of course, the smaller colleges in Indiana were all represented, the D3s and D2s and, the NAIA programs that we're lucky to have so many good programs in our state that they just cover it like crazy, trying to find kids. And there's certainly an abundance of them out there. So a good evaluation, I think, for those different levels too.
You mentioned Zachary and Gardner. What are the ideas where you think these guys will ultimately end up playing at the next level?
Yeah, I talked to both of them. I haven't written Jason's story yet, but with Cooper, I think definitely a lot of interest in he plans to visit some of the schools that have offered him, and I know Evansville just offered him this weekend, but Ball State was definitely deep for him. And I think there's some mutual interest there. So he's got, and I think
where's Matthew Graves in this? Do I need to? He better be on top of her, right? Because Zachary knows where he should be going, right? Terre Haute?
Well, they're trying to get Brandon Hunter out of Silver Creek, I know. So and Brandon's going to decide here before he's visiting Miami of Ohio today, and then I think he's going to decide here within a few days. He's got Indiana State, Western Kentucky, Miami of Ohio, and Belmont. So
that's easy right there. Terre Haute, Indiana, all the other three. That's easy. That's an easy call. Yeah. Come on now.
Exactly. No, he's got some good options, and I think he's coming down to the wire here. So that one will be interesting. He's a super passer. He's by far leads the state in assists, and we'll see what Cooper, what he ends up doing. I think he pretty much knows, the mid-major route's going to be the way it is for him. Just it's kind of the way high school recruiting is a little bit now. You got to go prove it and then maybe work your way up. So that's probably what he's looking at. I think with Jason, he's still kind of open to a lot of different ideas. He mentioned a lot of different schools, IU included. So we'll see where he's at. But I didn't get the sense that he was like a commitment was imminent with him necessarily. So we'll see how that one plays out. Obviously going to play through July and see what's out there for him, and then kind of go from there.
It's Kyle Neddenreip of the Stars on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. A very familiar last name, a very familiar high school. So Maddox Smith, did you happen to check him out over the weekend at any point?
Yeah, I did. Well, I did see them play on at the Tuesday night league. I didn't get a chance to see them this weekend. I was kind of kicking myself because there was a power outage at Westfield, unfortunately. So that created some change in scheduling and some cancellation of games, unfortunately, on Saturday. But I did watch him up at the Tuesday night league, and it's funny watching younger brothers, man, because the mannerisms are much like Braden's, and his game is a little bit different. I think he's maybe more of a scoring guard than Braden was, kind of more of that passing guard who could shoot. But Braden obviously a great shooter as well. But I think Maddox is going to be similar in some ways and maybe more of a scorer in some ways in high school. He had 26 yesterday in a game, I know, which is fairly incredible for a incoming freshman to do, and very efficient player. I really liked what I saw to him early on, and he's going to be a good one, man. I think, and just watching him, just kind of his mannerisms on the court, it's interesting that, it just kind of looks like Braden out there as far as the way he runs around and just kind of the way he reacts to things and reacts to different plays. So I think he's going to be a really good player. I mean, it goes without saying probably, but yeah, looking forward to seeing him play a lot more because I think there's a very bright future ahead with him as well. Should have mentioned it when you mentioned the freshman. Yeah, he's definitely one that should be in that mix as well.
Yeah, that was one that just occurred to me too, and that is a great event. Though it seems like you probably, in reflection, look back and go, "I wish I could have gone here and gone there," but it's just, I'm assuming, impossible to see it all and to take it all in. It's so massive.
Yeah, I mean I feel like being a veteran of this, I'm kind of like I have a good idea of what I want to see, but then, you don't want to be driving back and forth to Westfield and Carmel and missing some stuff. So I tried to stay in one venue as much as possible and just kind of I'd sometimes bounce between games and maybe see a half of a game here and a half of a game there just to see more kids. But you also want to watch, occasionally watch a full game too, just to get a sense if you haven't seen a player or want to see a team play. So I know I tried to block out, watch Brebeuf and Ben Davis play pretty much a full game, watched New Albany play a full game. Some teams I wanted to see play a full game and was able to do that, but also, want to see as many kids as possible. But yeah, it's kind of impossible. And there's definitely some teams that I wish I would have saw, but yeah, even though I was pretty much there the whole entire time, but you just can't see everybody.
So Kyle Neddenreip with us. You got about, a little over a month before high school football gets started. A couple of highlighted players, highlighted teams that we'll talk about way too early, but reasonable to discuss right now. Anybody come to mind?
Oh, yeah. I think the 6A is going to be a lot of fun. I think Brownsburg certainly winning the last two championships, and they have their quarterback, their best receiver. They have a couple of really good running backs, and I think they're going to be really, very good again. But I will say I think 6A is going to be, look at what Center Grove's got coming back. You look at what Westfield's got coming back. You look at what Carmel's going to be super motivated since they did not get through last year. I thought they were going to and probably play Brownsburg in that championship, but Westfield got there instead, and Westfield will be a handful again. But there are so many good teams. Lawrence North, I mean, they are loaded with especially skill position talent. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Warren Central too. I got to mention them. They have a lot of talent back, and I think the Warriors are going to be a handful this year. But yeah, I mean, you go down the list. I can't wait. Really looking forward to this football season because there's a lot of good storylines and there's a ton of talent in Central Indiana this year.
Got one more call regarding Will Davison from New Pal.
Mm-hmm.
Any knowledge on how he played? Because my friend Doug wanted to know how he looked at the Charlie Hughes. Any knowledge?
Will I know played. They played Brownsburg yesterday, and I know Brownsburg beat them. And but I know the game before that, Will had a really good game. And I talked to Trent Whitaker there between games, and I didn't get a chance to see Will this weekend, unfortunately. But I have I've seen him before. I saw him drop 35 in the sectional against New Pal, so I know he's a really good player, good scorer, and yeah, he's going to be a lot of fun to watch these next couple of years. But yeah, Will's a really good player. Yeah, another one I wish I didn't get a chance. I was watching that Brebeuf Ben Davis game when they were playing Brownsburg, but I heard he had a really good game.
Kyle Neddenreip of the Stars on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Man, that is really good information. I appreciate it more than you know. Go ahead and take the rest of the day off, and we'll do it again as we get closer to the football season. You got vacation stuff planned here? You get a little downtime now?
I got a week in July. Looking forward to that, and with moratorium week, we're kind of able to lay low a little bit, but we're still trying to get some Charlie Hughes stuff done these next couple days. So, it's a lot of games to watch, but then I actually got to write about it. So that's the tough part is to get around to it. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a great weekend, man. Charlie Hughes, he was the best, and I'm glad this event is attached to him because he always put a ton of work into it, and it's become a really good event every year.
Well done, man. I appreciate you more than you know. We'll catch up again later on this summer.
Absolutely. Anytime, John. Thanks.
Kyle Neddenreip of the Star. That is high-quality information, as always, with Kyle on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Couple of things here. One is just load up on Braden Smith. I'm going to finish the ridiculous quote in itself I'll talk about that a little bit later on. I'll bring it back up, I promise. Load up on Braden Smith. I got you covered. Now, as we head to a break, I sent this out, and I should probably have described it a little bit more. So I sent out a footprint. You guys see this? Or a paw print on X. There's a paw print right there, and I decided to write, "Hey, Marlon Perkins." Now, this is well over everybody's head because he was from Wild Kingdom, and I'm old, and I remember Wild Kingdom and Marlon Perkins. Most of you out there are very young and do not. Classic TV with Marlon Perkins. I said, "Hey, Marlon Perkins, is this a bear track?" Now, BT responded with, "It's a dog, coyote, or fox." I should have described this is on a beach, or I guess it's a beach, near about 50 miles from Sault Ste. Marie. And it's on the shores of Lake Superior. And that was sent from Blake. And Blake and Laney are up there vacationing. And I guess that is the state of Michigan / Canada right there. But they are in some remote cabin off of Lake Superior, and that paw print was on the beach. Again, about 50 miles away from Sault Ste. Marie. And if you're going to ask me, wait, what are they doing vacation? Beats the hell out of me. Hey, it's one thing. Hey, let's go to Michigan. Let's go to New Buffalo, or let's go to Holland. Hey, it's great. The beach, hey, yeah. You're going to go up there, you're going to swim out to the Edmund Fitzgerald? Is that what we're doing? But let me know, any of you amateur identifiers of paw prints, that to me looked like a bear. And it is, if you want a little bit of context on it, it is bigger than a human hand. That's a big paw print. Just out of curiosity. Now, do they have bears up there? I'm assuming they do, right? They have moose. They have bears?
I believe they have some Mises and some bears.
Bears. Is that a bear paw print?
Not bears.
Identify that. All right, quick one. Other side, top of the hour, by the way, Stephen Holder's going to join us, and I'll get back to the whole loading up on Braden Smith stupidity. What are you going to do? Stupidity runs rampant. I'll explain that coming up as well. Don't go anywhere. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan, a Fox 59 weather update now. Hey, John here. If you're thinking about feeling better, looking better, being more healthy, you are proactive and doing something about that right now. GLP-1 weight loss injections right here in Indianapolis with Premier Weight Loss. Get started and get started today. 2 locations, Northside 317-643-4444 or in Fishers at 317-567-9100. A weekly injection. You do the work alongside and you will see the results. Plus, the goal-oriented folks that are going to help you, from Samantha to Thomas to Lauren, are absolutely elite to get you exactly where you're going. Now, I mentioned the goals. They make sure you stay on track. Adjustments here or there, and then you're going to see those results that you're looking for, and then constantly checking you over to make sure everything is going okay. It's my friends at Premier Weight Loss. PWLindy.com. You can also ask about the cosmetic treatments that they have, including the electronic toning, the Botox, and the skin tightening, all at Premier Weight Loss. Make sure you get started today because as we enter July, some incredible deals. If you've decided enough is enough, I want to do some of the things I've not been able to do for a long time now. Get started today at Premier Weight Loss. That's PWLindy.com.
The Ride with JMV.
NBA. Oh, NBA. Where'd you learn about that? Sports Illustrated swimsuit editions.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, I've never... Keep this up for a second. By the way, that's a great song you're playing right here. The great Gordon Lightfoot. JMV Takeover. I saw Gordon Lightfoot when he was 81 years old, the year before he passed away. Skies of November turn gloomy. So I believe Blake and Laney are up somewhere near where the Edmund Fitzgerald sank. The theory of the bear track, the bear print, if you will, is being shot down. Maybe a larger cat? Like a house cat? Like Zeke? Listen, I'm not going, I don't want to go to a beach where the sand looks like that. I hate to shoot it down. I'm sure they're having a great time. Hopefully they are. Hiking around. And here's the other thing. It is going to be 88 degrees up there tomorrow, I think. I don't know if they have any AC. 80, is it 88 degrees? Look up the weather, would you, Landon, for Sault Ste. Marie. I think, much like down here, it's going to be relatively warm up there.
So right now in Sault Ste. Marie, it's 72.
Okay.
Tomorrow, it's going to be 85.
85. That's pretty hot for Sault Ste. Marie, isn't it?
Yeah.
What about Wednesday?
Wednesday, same thing, 85.
All right. That's pretty warm. I'm assuming that not a lot of people up there have air conditioners. I'm guessing.
I would hope they would.
Really?
Why not?
Well, they don't in like Seattle. They don't.
Seattle's
I know in,
awesome.
in Ketchikan, Alaska, and Vancouver, nobody has that. I'm just guessing. I don't know.
You could be right.
So I landed in for James today. 317-239-1070 on the text line. JMV, I saw a gentleman walking into the new Culver's that is on Southeast Street wearing a Odin Locker logo shirt. That's from David Hammer. I'd mentioned that myself and my good friend Jeff Watson are making a meat run early Friday morning to the Odin Locker because on this upcoming 250, this 4th of July weekend, we are in need of loads, poundage in terms of marinated turkey. And if you've never had the marinated turkey from the Odin Locker in Odin, Indiana, you are missing it. I have never met a human being that did not like it. And then, in fact, not only did they not like, but rave about it. Everybody raves about it. The marinated turkey. It is a Friday morning meat run. A little bit yesterday, too. JMV, I was watching you on Fox 59 last night. Everything seemed to be okay with you. I couldn't tell you're a 12 deep. I could tell you're out in the sun all day. Hey, by the way, did you pass out in the sun? I fell asleep. It's not passing out, okay? I'm too old to pass out. Old guys don't pass out when they're like, old guys take a nap. Right? Young guys pass. If you're in your 20s, hey, you passed out. Hey, I passed out. Old guys take a nap. I had been up till like 2 in the morning the night before JMV Takeover. And then I got up at 6:30 and had pickup basketball at Center Grove Central. Went a couple of hours. Went home, did a little mowing. Things were wet. So I hadn't had too much sleep. So I took a bit of a nap. I think I took like 2 or 3. I just kind of fall asleep sometimes where I'm sitting. And that also is, I think, a description of the age demographic in which I am. That I proudly, I'll thump my chest and say, yep, that's exact 56. I don't pass out. I take a nap. but I was not in the hot tub when I took a nap. JMV, I'll be in Cement City, Michigan for July 4th. What the hell is Cement City, Michigan? That's exactly what I would think. I would think of like Pothole City, Michigan, or Chipped Concrete, Michigan. Cement City, Michigan. Where's that? Landon, can you look that up?
Yeah, I'll see what I can find.
Yeah. The latest from Shams right here. We got a deal that is ongoing, don't we?
That we do.
All right.
And Cement City is in Michigan.
All right, here you see. Let me see the latest. We've got a lot of stuff happening in the NBA. The Grizzlies are trading two-time NBA All-Star Ja Morant to the Portland Trail Blazers for Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray. So I'm assuming that ends Portland and the anticipation that maybe they would end up with Jaylen Brown, I would guess. Or do they still have enough to get Jaylen Brown from the Celtics?
TBD on that.
Because I think Jeremy Grant, anybody high dollar Jeremy Grant and that big-ass contract would have to be a part of it, I would guess, right?
I would assume so. This feels like a good lineup for them, and they can try to get back to the Dame Lillard days.
Does Morant's dad still go sit on the sideline and act like a jackass?
Probably.
Cool. That's the latest. Two-time NBA All-Star Ja Morant to Portland for Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray. The Hawks declining Jonathan Kuminga's $24.3 million team option. That coming down from Shams about 3 or so minutes ago. Former Hoosier center Thomas Bryant, former Pacer Thomas Bryant, intends to sign a one-year deal to return to Cleveland. Had some good times with Thomas Bryant here, everybody. We'll see if the whole LeBron James, Anthony Davis, the Golden State stuff has any legs. That's pretty funny to me. Skivvies, it looks to be real. James Harden declining his $42.3 million player option. That looks like he will be back in Cleveland, which means Cleveland will be virtually the same, if not worse, than they were last year. Yeah, that's good. That is a good thing for the Pacers. More James Harden in Cleveland. All right, I mentioned this, and I'll come back. Stephen Holder's going to join us coming up at the top of the hour. So, quote, they didn't have a pick. The Pacers fan base was pissed. You know how we win them back? Load up on Braden Smith.
I like it.
You like that quote? Because I think that is a massively stupid quote from Jeff Teague. I'm sorry, we differ.
No, I'm just
but
excited
it doesn't have to be. No,
yeah.
If this has. It's not so much. It's stupid. It's incredibly. Let me explain why this Jeff Teague from whatever the Jeff Teague podcast is so incredibly stupid. Because there is one thing, and one thing alone, that will win any wavering Pacer fan back. One thing. And this is what this dumbass quote fails to recognize. That's it. Now, and maybe it was just a moment. And see, this is what happens on the podcast. I mean, it happens to me. Sometimes you get a little bit loose and you say some things and, is that a bear track? No, it's a fox or whatever. Or you say something and you go, yeah, I probably should have been a little bit more calm in how I delivered that. You're sitting around with your friends. You want to be noticed. And but this particular quote is inaccurate. Okay, maybe it's not a dumbass quote. It's an inaccurate quote. Because there is one thing, and I would think that a former player, a former high-level player, would know the difference. However, the head coach of Pike and this podcast guy, Jeff Teague, apparently does not. So we'll make sure if somebody's out there, you can deliver the message that obviously this is what's going to win back any Pacer fan that may have decided to climb off of the bandwagon. And there's one thing and one thing only. I'll explain coming up next. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan. Hey, John here. Got you covered if you're looking for a new ride. His name is Eric Wilson, and you're not going to find anybody better, nobody better, as far as a destination that is hassle-free to get you that new set of wheels that you're looking for than Eric Wilson and Andy Moore Buick GMC. That's 131st State Road 37 in Fishers. Why? Because they have your best interest in mind, plus they have incredible product. And I'm talking about inventory right now. And a red-hot car manufacturer, in this case, vehicle manufacturer, and I'll start right here with that. It is Buick. It is the Enclave in a variety of styles that will fit you, your family, and your price range. Whatever style, and especially now, since I know that a lot of you are heading out on summertime vacation and you're looking for a new set of wheels with that in mind, this is perfect. You have incentives to buy, service after the sale. I mentioned easy, right? Hassle-free. Your car buying experience, the absolute best you've ever had with my friend Eric Wilson and Andy Moore Buick GMC. 131st State Road 37 in Fishers. Hey, John here for Premier Deck Coating at 317-696-4071. Call Ron for that free quote today, premierdeckcoating.com. Slip-resistant, scratch-resistant, virtually any color. It's going to beautify your outdoor living space. You can get that done right now, too. Get that free quote just in time for the remainder of your summer, and then all those times spent outdoors this time of year and into the fall, and it's going to beautify your landscape around your home. Also, fences and pergolas can be done with Premier Deck Coating, but you got to get that free quote today. Call my friend Ron at 317-696-4071, online, premierdeckcoating.com.
The Ride with JMV.
Hey, so we can
Kennedy, so we gotta.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
317-239-1070. Evidently, according to Matty Matt, they're mountain lions up there. Maybe that's what that paw print is. Mountain lions.
Mountain lions make sense. Or pumas.
Sault Ste. Marie. Blake just actually called me and he said, quote, I don't know how much more time I'm going to have cell phone service. And again, I didn't say this to him because he's up there, right? I go, afterwards to myself, I thought, then what are we doing here? What are we doing? Yeah, I guess you enjoy some time where you are thrust back to like Walnut Grove or something on Little House on the Prairie. Outstanding. Mountain lions near Sault Ste. Marie. I had no idea. I should have done a little bit more research. I didn't really know where they were going other than the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. And what is that bridge? What is the island? Mackinac or Mackinac? What's it called?
Mackinac Island. Sounds right.
Mackinac Island up there. JMV, we have a traffic issue. Stoplights off at East Street and Troy. East Street and Troy and Hannah.
Matt Bear better get on that.
All the way to Southern Plaza. That's problematic right there, Bill. Yeah, I mentioned this before I hit a break. And listen, I realize that when you're doing podcast and their podcast has been successful, people listen to it. He's a former NBA player, high-level NBA player. But this is simply put not true. And when Jeff Teague said, quote, they didn't have a pick, the Pacers fan base was pissed. You know how when the back load up on Braden Smith. There's nothing more inaccurate than that. Nothing more inaccurate than that. It has zero bearing on it. None. There's only one thing. If you have any Pacer fans out there that have the illusion that last year is going to be representative of years to come, or that the year before last in the playoff run was nothing but just some kind of magical, somebody sprinkled fairy dust all over the end of the season and everything was great moment right up until the Halliburton injury. The way that you win fans back that may have fallen off this bandwagon is simple. It is winning. That is it. I think we have around here dealt with a great deal of disappointment with that in mind. And as you get older and hopefully more savvy, smarter, the intelligence kicks in a little bit more just from learned experiences. You will realize that is what matters the most. And statements and quotes like that are ridiculous. Now, for most other dudes, somebody might read that and get all offended. This dude has been told that his entire life. And really what that statement says is he's not good enough to play. And I like the fact that that's what people believe, because every level of basketball that dude's ever played, they have said that. And he has proven people wrong. And that's the inspiration that guys got like that get. They take it, they run with it, and they prove people wrong. They end up hitting an extra gear or an extra level by virtue of that. That's not to sell more jerseys. Can you imagine? Yeah, let's see how we can sell more jerseys here. Let's see. If you wanted to sell more jerseys, you could probably you would have drafted Trace Jackson Davis or traded for him, or you'd sell more jerseys then. Bring him in. You're not going to sell more jerseys or get the fans back that you believe are gone. And in fact, I don't think a lot of fans are gone. I think that's a miscalculation in the first place. They have been given this get out of 19-win purgatory free card. It's called a gap season. And the one thing that really, truly does matter in all of this The one thing that will appease this fan base entirely is winning, reaching expectations. This other stuff, just like that quote, incredibly stupid. Stephen Holder is going to join us coming up on the other side. ESPN, ESPN.com. No score, Paraguay and Germany in the 26-minute round of 32 knockout stage with Brazil a winner over Japan 2-1. Very exciting match a little bit earlier today. Keep you updated. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Dude, most metal
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So, JMV, you say Blake and Laney, they're in Sault Ste. Marie or near that. Are you going to get any Molson you can't get in this country on the way back? Molson Ultra is what I talked about. I think that they're going to end up at some point in Canada. I don't know whether they're going to find enough room to bring it back because I saw that thing all packed up. It looked like the Clampets. I don't know if they can get a case of or a case or two or Molson Ultra in there. Now, he did send me a picture of Molson Golden. Can you look up whether or not you can get Molson Golden beer in the U.S., Landon?
Yeah, I'll see what I can find here.
Molson Golden. I believe you can. But I also believe it goes about 135 to 150 calories a bottle, which is well above my threshold. We can get Molson Golden.
You can get Molson Golden in the U.S.
All right. So we shall see. I saw this from Tyler Freeman. This was a potential Pacers signing. Thoughts on who'd like to see them sign? I'll get back to that in a second. This is Shams talking about free agent guard Landry Shamet, intending to sign a 4-year, $24 million deal to return to the Knicks. I felt all along his value was inspired by Mike Brown and being more of a part of the team and off the bench, knocking down shots. I mean, he was a big deal in that team's championship run this season without question, but I never thought that he was going to be a choice of the Pacers just because his value was so heavy by virtue of his play this season and especially in the postseason. I just thought he played his way out of a lot of price ranges. And he is, according to Shams, going back to New York. John Moran is going to Portland in a trade. We got more news for you coming up in just a minute regarding that. Meantime, he's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline from ESPN and ESPN.com. He is Stephen Holder. Hey, Stephen, are you taking a hydration break today here in central Indiana? Because much like the World Cup, I think that's going to be necessary a couple of different times if you're outside.
Yeah, I've just tried to stay inside, honestly, because of what's going on outside. But, yeah, it's we went from we had all kinds of hydration the last couple of weeks with all that rain. And here we are now on the other end of that. So we can't win for losing, man.
No doubt about that. Stephen Holder joins us. Yeah, I like the hot, humid temperatures. I feel bad about saying that because I don't work out in it anymore other than yard work, and others do, and I understand that. But this time of year is still my absolute favorite. Always is. Yeah,
I don't mind it. I think, I come from Florida, and I'm maybe heading back there for a little bit here before camp. But, we have basically like a 10-month summer, and I love Florida, don't get me wrong, but I never had seasons. So I actually do appreciate the seasons. I've had enough summer for a lifetime, to be honest with you. So I'm fine. I like fall and spring, but a little too much precipitation probably for me.
I made this comparison a little bit earlier. Stephen Holder of ESPN covers the Colts. He's with us. But I made this comparison. I talked to Chad Buchanan last week, and they are a believer in their core, and they are running it back. And we've heard the run it back phrase mentioned with the Colts a number of times. And I made this comparison with the two professional franchises we've talked about here with the Colts and the Pacers. One is it makes sense, and that is organizationally the belief of the Pacers in that core group getting back to winning, led by Tyrese Halliburton. Now, we have seen the Colts run it back, and there's a little bit of inspiration there. And we saw what happened before Daniel Jones went down with an injury. But there is much more of a have to and a lot less flexibility in being able to do something with the Colts than what we witness with the Pacers. The Colts are kind of stuck with believing in what they're doing and hopefully something comes out of it than with the Pacers believing in what they're doing because you've seen the evidence of it and going ahead and doing that. That to me is the big difference between the Colts and the Pacers here. One is kind of stuck and has to. The other is really, in this case, they really do believe in the Pacers and this core. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think they are very different situations. I mean, and I think the two philosophies from the organizations are similar. And maybe it's because, they're smaller market teams and they're dealing with, factors in that regard, even though the NFL, that's less of a factor, obviously, right? But, they're not as deep-pocketed, the Colts, compared to some other teams. So maybe there's like a financial component here. I don't know. But take that out for a minute. I do think the philosophies, for whatever reason, there are definitely similar philosophies. I actually don't mind that philosophy in general. I think it's fine. I think the devil you know rather than the devil you don't. Sometimes, team chemistry matters, all that. But you outlined the difference. The difference is in the Pacers instance, they're basing the blueprint based on what they have already seen. The Colts are basing it somewhat on what they have seen, but they didn't finish the job. So there is a big part of it that is projection. And that is the tricky part. So when you run it back, and they didn't run it back on defense necessarily. The defense is going to be pretty different, but it's not necessarily better. It's younger. It's less experienced, right? So we don't know what they're going to be on defense. But the name players on this team, they are running it back. And I think the thing that we have to point to there is when you do that, the goal is that the bottom line or the baseline has to be that you get back to where you were last year. Because that could be the case, right? Who knows if the team actually improves? You're just assuming that. The goal here, it has to be that they improve. But there's also the chance that you're just the team that you were last year. And then the question becomes, is that good enough? And because of the injuries, it's hard to answer that question. But I think that is a question that probably doesn't inspire a lot of confidence, right, when we ask fans. So, yeah, I'm with you. I don't mind the philosophy generally, but in this particular instance, it might be asking a lot.
Do you think had they not made that Sauce Gardner trade before the trade deadline, would they be going down this path? Again, all being equal, but had they not made that trade and still had a first rounder, 2 first rounders in this case, would we be seeing this team look the same as it does right now, or would it have been a different path given the circumstances?
That's a good question. I mean, I think, you're talking about what, like quarterback or, I guess you just mean all of it. I think, well, what I would say is that maybe they would become a contender for, one of those big off-season moves that we saw made. I mean, we saw Myles Garrett traded, for example. I'm not saying they would have been in that mix, but I mean, maybe, right? Maybe. I don't think that made sense for them necessarily where they are fiscally, because I think they're in sort of a holding pattern financially, right? It does appear. Okay. So I don't know if financially that's where they wanted to go, if they wanted to go big that way, but I'm just, you asked the question. I think that's where at least you have some options. If you have 2 first-round picks in your pocket, you have some options, right? You could maybe do some things. But in their situation, they really were out of the game when it came to big off-season trades this year. They just weren't even in the picture and couldn't consider it. So that's tough. But I think in their mind, look, they would argue, fair or not, right or wrong, they would argue we have an all-pro cornerback that's just as good as anybody else who was traded. Maybe not as good as Myles Garrett, but you know what I'm saying. Just about as good as most other guys who would have been available in the draft and or free agency. And that's not necessarily something I disagree with.
Philosophically speaking, Stephen Holder joins us. Defensively, they count on having 2 guys, especially on the back end, 2 high-dollar guys. That essentially is kind of how teams like to handle what they have up front. So they, in this case, are kind of trading the consistent quarterback pressure for guys that can make plays in the secondary, maybe without that normal level of quarterback pressure. Is that fair to say? And how many teams do you remember that have been able to exercise a defense that has been high level in that capacity? Any team come to mind?
Well, to your first question, I think that's fair in terms of like the description of it. Look, I mean, most people who build football teams, you want to build from the outside out. I'm sorry, inside out, I should say. And that's on offense and defense to some degree. Offensively, you know, you can have all that skill talent on the outside. If your offensive line sucks, what is even the point, right? We have seen that play out many times. Defense is pretty similar. You know, I think you have to have a really good core up front. You know, I think to get the most out of the guys on the perimeter, like Sauce Gardner, you know, like Mooney Ward. I mean, they're going to be better every single day. They're going to be better with a front seven that is up to snuff. I think this is a default to some degree. Okay, when the Colts, let's go back to last year when they made that trade for Sauce. They were on the market looking at all kinds of guys. Okay, they were looking at all types of trades, and the focus initially was trying to get an edge rusher. I can tell you this with 100% fact. That did not pan out. Teams were not willing to give those guys up, and that includes Trey Hendrickson, who, you know, they had some conversations about. I don't know that they were willing to give up a lot because it was going to be a rental, right? He was headed for free agency. But my point is, they started that effort to land an impact player. That effort started with trying to get a guy up front. So I think that answers your question. Okay, where's the priority? The priority's up front. They couldn't get that guy, so I'm not saying they settled for Sauce Gardner, but they shifted the focus and said, okay, well, he's a great player, even though he's not what we were looking for. He is a great player and a guy who would certainly make a concerted difference. I mean, I just want to point out to the listeners, I mean, all you got to do is go back to the one game that he and Mooney Ward really played wire to wire together, I would say, was the Kansas City game. And the offense really kind of lost them that game. They just couldn't get a first down in the second half. But defensively, even though they gave up a big drive at the end, and that was very disappointing, go back and watch that game. Patrick Mahomes has nowhere to throw the ball. Okay, that was the blueprint for 56 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's what they're looking for. But I think to your question, you always prefer, like, if you could have Myles Garrett or Deion Sanders in their prime, you know, the question is, which would you want? I do think people would lean a little more toward the Myles Garrett. Is that what I said? Yeah, Myles Garrett. I mean, I think just the impact of that position and what it does to just sort of destroy the opposing offense, I think it just gets the edge. You get the edge in a decision like that.
Just Stephen Holder of ESPN and ESPN.com on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. This reminder, stay hydrated, try to stay as cool as possible, especially for the next 4 or 5 days. It is going to be ridiculously hot around here, and heat advisories are in activity. We'll get you updated weather-wise coming up in a minute. Outside, Stephen, of the Daniel Jones effect, and obviously he has to be the most impactful. I live in a world of have-tos with teams that you have to count on guys. Who's second on that list that has to perform at the highest level for this team to have success that a lot of Colts fans out there are skeptical that they can have in 2026?
Well, actually, before we get to that question, I just want to say one thing. You asked me on the previous question, like, you know, historically, are there defenses that have made it work with the back end being the strength of their team? And, you know, like the great defenses, I would say if you look at the great defenses, and I mean like the absolute most elite defenses of our time, most of them, now a lot of them had, you know, Hall of Famers on the back end.
Yeah.
I think about, the great Ravens defenses. They had Ed Reed back there, but they also had, the likes of Ray Lewis and Haloti Ngata, up front, right? I look at, go to the '85 Bears. I mean, who were the defensive backs?
Yeah, Mike Richardson and Leslie Frazier were the DBs, and then Frazier was compromised, I think, late in the season.
Right. So I mean, we're not talking about all-time greats necessarily, right? The talent on that defense and the reason it was great was what it did up front. That's where the talent was focused. The Steelers, the '70s Steelers had tremendous talent on the back end, but I mean, look what they had up front. Jesus, right?
It just seems like two high-level corners is something of which we haven't seen in a highly effective elite defense that the Colts are counting on here.
Yeah, I think we've seen it, but it's not been like the singular part of the defense that was elite, if that makes sense, right? It's usually been in conjunction with a defense that was really good up front. I mean, when the 49ers got Deion, was Ronnie Lott still with them at that point? I can't remember. It's all running together now. But they had a lot of talent up front. They had a really good secondary, clearly, and Deion was ridiculously good, right? Probably the best we've ever seen in terms of one-on-one coverage. But I mean that defense, the heart and soul of that defense was up front. So anyway, I just think that that's just the way the best defenses in history have been structured. The Colts are trying to do it in a little bit of a different way. I think that's a great point, and I think it's something we're going to see play out. Now, in terms of the question you just asked me, like who has to come through, I really think Alec Pierce is a story we just got to follow all season, because there were games in the past where in his previous role, he could go a game without having a big play, and they could still win. Okay? Now the situation is such that, he can't just take a back seat now. And that doesn't mean he has to go catch a 40-yard bomb every week, but it does mean he has to be consistently productive. He's the number one, and, Tyler Warren is going to get a lot of attention. They're not going to always let Tyler Warren get those big plays, which he got his fair share of. But I mean, those are harder to generate with tight ends. And so my point is, he's going to have to consistently come through. He's going to have to, he's going to have different expectations. He's going to draw better defenders. It's going to be different. It's going to be different. And now this injury has compromised him. So I'm not saying I'm down on Alec Pierce. I'm not saying I'm changing my expectations. All I'm saying is I think this is a story that we have to watch, and because he has to come through. There's no question about that. He definitely has to come through. And I still am on that train about them, I think, being in contention to sign a wide receiver. I strongly advocate for that, and I think they should do it.
I think I think the Colts, and there's a lot of things that have to fall into place in terms of good fortune, of which with that team we haven't seen happen like that for a long, long time. However, I think for them to be division challenging worthy, that Latu has to be at the very top of that list. He has to be the, when Chris Ballard a couple of years ago leaned back in his chair out there during the draft and said, we just got the best defensive player in the draft. He's going to have to be talked about as, well, you know what? Maybe that quote wasn't that far off base. That to me is a significant have to, for them to be a challenger and a hell of a lot better than how I'm thinking they're going to be right now.
So here's what I'd say for Latu. This is actually, I think, promising. If you look at trajectory, I'm not saying last season was where he needs to ultimately be. No, he hasn't lived up to that billing yet, for sure, that Chris Ballard outlined. But I would say this. I think he went as a rookie, 4 or 5 sacks. Last year, 8.5. If he continues that trajectory, we're talking about an 11, 12 sack guy this year. Now, that's a big jump to make. It's one thing to jump from 4 to 8.5, and another thing to jump from 8.5 to 12 or 13, right? I think that is certainly tougher. and he's going to draw tough matchups and that kind of thing. But I do think he has it in him, and I think he's still a guy who, is kind of, learning to adapt to the NFL. And I thought he made a better adaptation last year. He had a fair number of moves when he came into the NFL, but what he learned pretty quickly was that, well, these offensive tackles are one step ahead of him. And so last year was a year of growth for him. And I thought the production improved. And so he's got to take another step this year, but it has to be an equally big step, an equally big step compared to last year. So, look, all we can do is wait and see. I think he has it in him, but I can't promise that it's going to happen. But it has to happen. That's it. You're right.
Yeah, that's where I start. And like people ask me all the time, so what do you think about the Colts this year? And much like recent history, I downplay it year after year, and it's not because I want to. It's not because it's for the good of the show, because it's much better when they win, as it was for the first part of the season a year ago. But it's just, you look at it right now, and especially those first 4 games, you have to get off to a tremendous start with just a barrage of questions that you really don't want to have to answer that early in the season. It's a tough one. It really is.
It is. And, and we haven't even talked about, Daniel Jones' Achilles, right? So I think that one, I've consistently said the same thing. I'll say it again. I'm not worried about the Achilles holding up. That's not the issue. I mean, he looks fine. That thing is intact. It's not going to tear, all that good stuff. That's not the question, though, right? The question is, can he play at the same level he played at the start of last season? And that's the first question, because I think there's more than one. The first question is that, can he play at the same level as the start of last season, which involved a lot of bootlegs and him throwing on the run, and that's what we haven't seen him really do yet, right? And that's what it's going to take. That's the first question. The second question is, can he stay healthy, irregardless of the Achilles, right? I know all the wordsmiths out there hate irregardless, so regardless of the Achilles. How about that?
Well, listen, it's not like this is a Shakespearean show you're dealing with right here, okay? I say dumbass about way too many times, so that's me. I think they know what they're dealing with right here. Yeah, nobody's counting grammatical errors for 3 hours during the day here. Let me tell you.
I forgot this wasn't English lit class.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that those are 2 huge questions that probably will dictate a lot of where this team goes in its entirety. Let's be honest, right? In large part on the defense, and then offensively, what are we getting from Daniel Jones, and is he out there? I mean, that's everything for me.
Yeah, that is definitely where it all starts. I'm telling you, you do at times have to go back. But that question I asked you about what team had, that level of guys at the back end of the defense, like Matt brought up Lester Hayes and Mike Haynes. You got to go back a long way to find guys like that. So, and normally what happens is the superstar makes maybe somebody that wasn't noted as a superstar on the other side a hell of a lot better. Like anybody that Darrelle Revis, I'm sure, ever played with made that guy a lot better by virtue of being so dominant on one end. But just rarely has, a secondary, 2 corners like this been counted on in the capacity in which defensively, normally you would be relying upon those coming off the edge up front.
Yeah, I mean, historically, there's no question about it. I mean, teams, if you were picking teams, like if you were an expansion team and you were picking from scratch, your first defensive player is probably not a corner. Your first pick, right, is probably not a corner. I think you can look at the NFL draft. Corners do go high when they're really good. I'm not suggesting they don't, but if it boils down to we got a great corner and a great defensive lineman, the defensive lineman always gets picked first, man. The draft is how you know about positional value. That's all you have to know. All right, the Colts took Tyler Warren a couple years ago. Do you know how few tight ends go in the top? What was he, number 14? In the top 14? You know, it didn't take me that long to do the research. Let's put it that way. You know, so positional value is usually dictated by the draft, or at least indicated by the draft, and the draft tells us teams prefer the front end over the back end. That being said, you're talking about, you know, a super elite player here, and pretty good players around him back there. So if there's ever a team that can be somewhat of an outlier, maybe it's this defense, but we'll see. We got a long way to go.
Quickly, I did want to recognize this because he was so spectacular, and you covered him a great deal. The news regarding Chris Johnson and his ALS diagnosis, and you know what he's dealing with now, and you know trying to stay as bright and as engaged as possible. Just incredibly sad. It's devastating news, and the context in which we received that earlier today on Good Morning America.
No, it's incredibly sad, and you know I think back to Chris Johnson's highlights in his career, and you can think about like 3 or 4 moments right now where you're like, yeah, that dude was one of one. You know, I mean, yeah, he was. I think I was at the combine the year he ran, and I think ran like a ridiculous, one of the all-time fastest 40s. I think it was him, if I'm not mistaken, like a sub 4.340. And I remember they came in the media room and announced it. This is back when you couldn't go in the old dome and watch, you know. So they would come and announce like the big highlights from the workouts, and I remember them coming in. I'm pretty sure I got this story right. I recall Chris Johnson making headlines that day or that week and running like a 4.28 or something stupid. But anyhow, you know, it is sad, but I give him a lot of credit, you know, for coming out publicly the way he did. It would have been very easy. This thing was kept pretty secret for a long time, apparently. No one knew this. A small group of people knew this, but it wasn't widely known, apparently. So kudos to him for coming out and raising awareness and that kind of thing. And I just, you know, all we can do is send our prayers out to him, but just incredibly sad, man. And what a great football player.
Yeah. It's Stephen Holder on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. All right. Hey, stay hydrated. Stay cool.
You got it.
And we'll catch up with you again next week, pal. Appreciate you.
All right. You take it easy.
Stephen Holder on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Your grammar will not be judged on this show, I guarantee you. Because the host of this show knows he ain't got the smarts real good. Recognize that. Landon's over there. He's much smarter than me. No, listen, I will wear sleeves again. But actually, it's kind of warm in here right now. Is it warm in there?
It's a bit toasty.
I think it's these lights right here at everything.
All the spotlights on you.
But I dig. I've normally been doing the tank top wear on Saturday nights and be downstairs because they were having some difficulties cooling the place down. But I think they fixed that because it was like 50 degrees in there on Saturday night. But it's just going to be warm in a lot of spots where it's not usually warm.
And see, you know,
it's this hot.
If I would have known you would have worn a tank today, and if John, like with John Nolan too, I would have gone tarps off too.
We were bros.
We
were all bros. Listen, you guys are lucky. I have a shirt on anyway. All right, you guys are really lucky. Yeah. In fact, I thought about. I don't know. Is there a rule where I can't go shirtless in here? I don't know if there's a rule or not. Is there? I don't really care.
I don't think there's a pen and paper rule.
Last thing I want to be doing as we enter the month of July is wearing a shirt. All right? It's overrated. Quick one. We'll return on the other side. Hey, don't go anywhere. Your call's on the other side, too, and I'll read some of your texts at 317-239-1070 as well. Thank you all for joining us. It is the stream and the app. You can watch. We enjoy that a great deal. And we also want to make sure you are weather aware with an update right now, courtesy of Fox 59. All right, let's make sure we maintain here. And I'm talking about a high level with your plumbing because you get thinking about the heat, the humidity, enjoying the summertime, and then all of a sudden, bam, you get sideswiped by a plumbing issue. Be prepared. And simply put, your preparation is by having this number handy. That's LD Smith Plumbing and Drains. 317-927-7186. A variety of ways in which things can happen with your plumbing. It can be compromised. Doesn't necessarily have to be a plumbing emergency, but either way, you're going to have the backing of the absolute best in plumbing anywhere in the state of Indiana. That's Lance and LD Smith Plumbing and Drains. 317-927-7186. And, know that we're hot and humid right now, but in the summertime, lots of rain, lots of downpours. Make sure all of your drains are clog free with LD Smith Plumbing and Drains. 317-927-7186. That's Lance and his local team online, ldsmithplumbing.com.
The Ride with JMV.
Just an average guy with exceptional hair.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Why did Jay Wright retire? Why did Krzyzewski say I've had enough? Why did Jim Boeheim say I have enough? Why is Bill Self going year to year? Because the NIL is hell. It's hell. And the thing is, he agreed to a contract extension to Michigan, but he didn't sign it, from what I understand.
Okay.
Because I think he was eyeing this opportunity.
So there was the Mavericks as an opportunity.
Just the coach in the NBA. So had Steve, it's my understanding, had Steve Kerr retired, he would have been on the short list for the Warriors. And I think he was on the list of several other teams that had openings, and then obviously the Mavericks as well.
That's Brian Windhorst of ESPN on the Rich Eisen Show, in which you can hear from 1 until 3 weekday afternoons here on 93.5 and 107.5 Fan. Now, this goes back, I can't remember how long it goes back, but it does go back. So I was on with Chris Hagan of Fox 59 on 59 Overtime. And Chris had asked me, regarding Dusty May, and I think this was at the time with everybody talking about IU interest and, should they have parted with Mike Woodson a year prior and hired Dusty May? I forget exactly how that went in the context. But I told Chris flatly, I said, the only way that he's going to go someplace else other than Ann Arbor is if it's an NBA job. And that's exactly what happened. An NBA job. Now, I did not know that had Steve Kerr left, that Golden State and Mike Dunleavy had the interest in him. I didn't know that part that Windhorst shared. That was earlier today, by the way, right here on the Fan. I didn't know that interest was there. However, I did know for a number of years that Dusty has always eyeballed an NBA level job, because that, I'm assuming for anybody that is a coach, is the ultimate in a goal. I shouldn't say anybody, but many, is a goal. And that has been his goal. So Golden State could have been an option. Dallas was the choice. I'll get him on here at some point. I'm going to let it rest just a minute and then get back with him. But I'm incredibly proud of him, certainly, for reaching that. And by the way, too, he is incredibly busy. As the NBA got a lot of news down today, Ja Morant traded from the Grizzlies to the Portland Trailblazers. Jeremy Grant was a part of that particular deal. Evidently, there is still framework to get something done in Portland with Jaylen Brown with Boston. So we'll see if ultimately that works out. The Micah Potter news I shared with you a little bit earlier today. Jalen Lawson as well regarding the Pacers. A non-guaranteed situation for Micah Potter right there. And really that's something in which the Pacers had to do before they started out. Gives them a little bit more, I think, flexibility. I don't know how much. I guess that's trying to give an ironing board financially here flexibility, but they have a little bit. Landry Shamet back with the champion New York Knicks. That was a name that had been mentioned. Now, another name that had been mentioned here is Norman Powell. Norman Powell is not evidently going to be back with Miami. I don't know price tag wise. I don't know how much, honestly, is worthy of talking about that would actually work. No, how much might. But certainly it is interesting day-wise in the NBA with a lot of news happening. It's Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray was the deal, according to Shams, for Ja Morant. So as of right now, you have Morant, Holiday, Scoot Henderson, and remember Damian Lillard is back in Portland as well. Clippers did pick up the $9.2 million team option on Brook Lopez. We are kind of awaiting. I have not seen anything regarding Benedict Mathurin come across my desktop yet. Nothing regarding that. But there is a fluid level of news. Looks like Nurkic back with the Jazz. 2 years, $22 million. It appears that Oklahoma City, they're picking up forward Lou Dort's $17.7 million team option. That's all within the past hour or so, as I've been talking to Stephen Holder of ESPN. The Hawks declining Jonathan Kuminga's $24.3 million team option. So a couple of things for former Pacers kind of stand out. One is obviously Mathurin and exactly what happens to him, and then Miles Turner and if anybody may trade for him out of Milwaukee. All stories among the other stories that are going down, including that of what the Pacers may end up trying to do here as well. All right, Paraguay has a 1-0 advantage, 51st minute, as they've just started the second half of play. That is in Boston. A first-half goal for Paraguay, and they're up on Germany. If you remember, Germany, I think they were beaten, right? Last time out? Or did they tie? I can't remember. What did they do? What did they do in that last group stage of action? I thought they got beat, and they didn't look great doing it, but they weren't playing dudes, kind of like Team USA. There's some familiarity, I think, with this German effort than what we witnessed last time. What was it again?
So Germany lost their last game against Ecuador.
See, they lost against Ecuador, and the United States lost against Turkey, and neither team was really playing for anything. And Germany kind of so far looks as if they're still in that mode. Now, again, Brazil struggled until late in that one, too. They were down 1-0 to Japan, and then 2 consecutive goals, including the game winner in extra time in that knockout stage. So they advance to the round of 16, along with Canada. And again, Paraguay and Germany right now, with Paraguay up 1-0, 53rd minute. Jay DeMerit, the former U.S. men's national team rep from 2010. He will join us coming up on tomorrow's show. We'll talk a little bit about Team USA and Bosnia-Herzegovina and that matchup coming up on Wednesday. A little bit about that and more with the World Cup, the knockout stage officially underway with Jay DeMerit coming up on tomorrow's show. Greg Rakestraw also on tomorrow's show. Quick break. We shall return. Don't go anywhere. Behringer's Tavern on Thursday. Looks like the Germans just got the equalizer. So as I was talking about how they were a little slow afoot, they have tied Paraguay. 53rd minute with a goal right there. The round of 32, the FIFA World Cup in Boston. It is now level at 1 goal apiece. All right, Behringer's Tavern, South Meridian, coming up on Thursday. More on that on the other side. We'll close out this show coming up, too. Don't go anywhere. Stream John here for Rhino Shield. The Rhino Shield, where you never have to paint your house again. Man, the last thing you want to be doing is trying to paint your house. Paint your house right now in weather like this. How about the ceramic coating of Rhino Shield for you? Virtually any color and a 25-year transferable warranty. And it is good for a home. It is, again, residential or commercially speaking, the absolute best to beautify your home and then to give you a sense of not having to do this all the time and maintaining that beauty. Here's also something that is beautiful. You call 888 Rhino 41 right now. You mentioned that I sent you 15% off the regular price. That is the ceramic coating of Rhino Shield. 888 Rhino 41. You mentioned my name. That's 15% off the regular price of Rhino Shield. RhinoShieldIN.com. Residential and commercial. Don't paint, no vinyl. Go Rhino and never paint your house again. That's Rhino Shield.
The Ride with JMV.
Are you kidding? You think I'd join his crummy snobatorium? But his whole place sucks. That's right, it sucks.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So, Meg just informed me we have last-minute giveaway situation. Is that true?
That is the information that has been rallied
well,
to
let's Landon over there. Let's explain, Landon, the last-minute giveaway because time is of the essence right here. We got to give something away. What is it?
I'm going to be completely honest with you, man. I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, I believe it's Indy 11 tickets for something right now, isn't it? Do you want to look it up? Because we don't have too much time. We got to give something away. We got to motivate some folks here.
I'm trying to get my...
On the text line of 317-239-1070. We need some motivation. So let me know when you have the information because folks are chomping at the bit for us to give something away. By the way, I saw so many people this weekend with the shout and wanting those Rocky Horror Picture Show, Mirage, October the 21st tickets. We'll give you another round of giveaways in the future. I promise you that. We still have plenty of time. Yes, Landon.
They are Indy 11 tickets.
Indy 11. Can you give me when?
This will be Saturday, July 4th as the Indy 11 hosts Charleston.
All right. Indy 11 and Charleston. That's July the 4th. And here's what's great. So you can go to this. And I'm assuming fireworks downtown are going to be everywhere. July the 4th. Celebrating 250. Seeing the Indy 11. And you can listen to the JMV takeover on the inbound and then afterwards, too. Now, I don't know. I may need to get DJ Skids, although it's really late in the game. I may just go ahead and do it myself of putting together some sort of patriotic July 4th, 250, like mega mix. But I haven't asked him yet. Let's do this. Let's go number 5 right now. You want to go number 5?
Let's do number 5.
239-1070. Number 5, July the 4th. Indy 11 tickets. And you know all the festivities going on downtown. And it's July the 4th, the celebration of 250. Number 5, 239-1070. Indy 11 tickets are yours. Go get them. Number 5, 239-1070. Oh, I know I didn't bring it to the text line. People are asking me on the text line. Yeah, call right here. 239-1070. Sorry about that. Normally we do this by the text line. I want to make it easier on you since this was fairly quickly here.
Appreciate that.
Trying to. This person's never been. All right, we'll come back on tomorrow's show. Greg Rakestraw and Jay Demerit coming up tomorrow. Stephen Holder, Kyle Neddenreip at John Nolan, podcast 1075thefan.com. Landon again tomorrow, right?
That is correct.
Do it again?
I'll be in tomorrow.
Thank you,
Tomorrow's
pal.
last day.
I appreciate that. Hey, stay hydrated out there. Try to stay as cool as possible and hang out with us. Oh, by the way, shout out to everybody. JMV Takeover on Saturday night was incredible. And a shout out to Melanie Buchanan, the wife of Chad Buchanan, back from the Dave Matthews Band show. She and her friend Michelle with request calls on Saturday night. That was pretty awesome. All requests Saturday night. Back with you tomorrow at 3, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Stay cool, everybody.